Can we do?
Yes.
We're going to move on to our next segment. We have Maria Elena Perez joining us in studio. She's a staff writer at Newsweek. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you guys for having me. You guys are actually the first people to say Maria Elena, so I really appreciate that. Appreciate it.
Well, it's a bold name, so.
Thank you guys for having me today.
And joining us via Skype is Inez Stepman. She's a senior policy analyst at Independent Women's Forum. Welcome, Inez.
Thanks for having me.
So the Equal Rights Amendment was close to being ratified before the Virginia's House of Delegates voted against it. What is next for this bill? Inez.
Well, it's not clear. There are a couple other states that might potentially be in the bucket where proponents are trying to ratify. So we might see Arizona or North Carolina take up the ERA. Illinois passed it a while back, but it's also not at all clear that this effort doesn't have to start over from the beginning legally. There will be a legal battle even if this 38 state threshold is met. And then on top of that, Congress will have to re-ratify because in the past, Congress had passed the ERA but put a time limit on its passage and its ratification in the states. So this is the beginning of a long battle. This is not going to be the end.
When was the sunset?
So there were two sunsets. Originally, Congress, I think the second one was through 1982. So we now have a 40-year spread between the first states passing it and these more recent ratifications in 2018, like Illinois. And it's not at all clear that that's sort of acceptable. The Supreme Court has put a limit on ratification, saying it has to be roughly in the same time frame. And then a few of the states that ratified it originally have actually rescinded that ratification, and it's not actually clear the constitutional status of rescinding ratification before something becomes an amendment either. So there are a lot of uphill legal issues for this fight, and it'll be interesting to see how the legal issues play out. But in the meantime, states there are attempts in several states to ratify this.
And Inez, I know that you wrote an op-ed warning readers against the ERA. Can you just outline some of those reasons, like why shouldn't they ratify it?
Sure. So this amendment would raise sex discrimination, any kind of discrimination based on sex, to the same level as constitutionally as we treat, for example, racial discrimination. And that sounds really nice. But the reality is that there actually are some very common sense differences between men and women, and we have laws based on that reality, right? So, for example, there are scholarships, federally funded scholarships, that are exclusively for women. That could not happen under the ERA. That would be a discrimination based on sex. Similarly, the fact that women are left out of the selective service, the draft, right? That could not happen. That's a discrimination based on sex. Even potentially discrimination based on sex in prisons, right? We put men in men's prisons and women in women's prisons because of the obvious biological differences and dangers there for women. That would be potentially constitutionally infirm under this amendment. So you can see there are a lot of very controversial legal ramifications of this. And I feel that proponents are kind of pulling a bait and switch here, where they're saying, oh, this is just about basic legal equality. Well, we have that already. Women's rights are already protected under the Constitution, rights like free speech, jury trial. What aren't protected are these sort of controversial social issues that we ought to be able to fight out in the public square and through voting, just like any other issue. And this would constitutionalize that and take those issues out of that public square and out of that debate.
And can we get your take on this? What do you think about the whole discussion here? And are you for or against the ERA?
Well, I mean, I know there have been debates surrounding the ERA for quite some time, but yeah, I do believe that the ERA is a good idea. It is designed to give equal rights for women and in terms of divorce and property and employment and stuff like that. And I think the Me Too movement definitely let that gain momentum in 2017. Yeah, I just do think it's a good idea to